Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to day 7 of my 31-day live challenge. It's been a fascinating week, and everything's happening today. Basically, today I'm going to be talking about, let's get my agenda up so I can actually see what we're going today. I'm going to be talking about the topic of hate crime. Now, sometimes it's very strange how things just happen. But this is what has happened. I had an incident, which I'm going to look back at later, just to tell you about, an incident where somebody started abusing me on one of the shows. I've talked to some other women, and this is something that seems to be happening a lot. Trolls who pick up on a program and then start to decide abusing the person doing the live broadcast. So this isn't just something that happens to me because I'm transgender, although I think that one was particularly because I'm trans, and I'll come back to that later. But it's something that happens a lot. And of course, today, lo and behold, the CPS, and this is the Crown Prosecution Services in the UK, for those listening in from the UK, the Crown Prosecution Services have announced that they are going to get tough on online hate crime. So what that means is that if somebody commits a crime online, they're going to be treated in roughly the same way, and the courts are going to be encouraged to prosecute with the same degree of fervour that they currently do for offline hate crime. And that is going to make a huge difference. Now, the question, of course, is how we tackle that, because a lot of the trolls are coming in from all over the world. Really hard for people in the UK to prosecute someone who happens to be coming in from abroad. But not all of them are. Sometimes they are quite nearby. And I think it's an area that needs to be handled because it is a challenge. I was quite shocked when that hate incident happened to me the other day. So what I want to do today is just have a little look at that. And if anybody wants to come online and have a chat, I'm more than happy to send you a link. You can come on and actually chat online, or just send me post a question or a message, and I'll talk about it as I'm going through. But I want to look at a few things around this and try and see what we can do. Now, at the same time, what's interesting, the first I knew about the CPS announcement was a phone call last night from Breakfast Television saying, would I like to go on the show? Now, that would have meant a 2.5-hour journey to Manchester, stopping overnight, and it was going to be a fairly long journey for a few minutes on Breakfast Television. So I declined. Then this morning, I got a phone call from ITV saying, would I like to go on their show? And they'll come to me. So a little bit later on today, I'm going to be talking to ITV about this same challenge of what it's like, and particularly for trans people. So that's my perspective on it. But it's also the issue, I think, that faces a lot of women. Hate crime is all sorts of people are subjected to hate crime, whether you're about race, whether it's about religion, whether it's about your gender identity, whether it's about your sexual orientation, whether it's about your disability. And all of these problems happen on a regular basis. And, I think a lot of people are talking about what happened in Charlottesville last week, where basically a group of white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan, had all been wound up to get into a position where they would make a huge march in Charlottesville, all because somebody was going to remove a statue. And of course, that prompted a group of white supremacists to come and compete with them. So then somebody decided to drive a car through the crowd of opposers to the white supremacists. One person has died, a lot of people injured, and the whole thing has escalated from what had started as online on a protest, a vocal protest, with a lot of Twitter and Facebook stuff going around. It has started and been built up online, turned into a real event, and consequently lives lost. Now, it's a challenge. Part of the problem there was a lot of the white supremacists feel that somehow they are supporters of Donald Trump, and that's why they're in it, and that's what's happening to them. So, Crown Prosecution Services here, reference to that in their reports. Now, there's quite a few bits I've been looking online, and looking at what's happening online, and I'll just I'll just go across to some of the newspapers that I've been seeing this morning, looking at The Guardian here, and they've picked up particularly on this interesting issue about a man who sent menacing messages after he offered money to on Facebook to anyone to run over an anti-Brexit campaigner, Gina Miller. I mean, that's the problem, that people online are inciting people to crimes which will be offline. Which will be in the physical real. It does result in physical damage, but it's not just the physical damage. There's a huge big article there that's online at the moment if you want to see it. Whoops, let's go back to next one that I've got here. Huffington Post, and they're talking about Lucinda Berger, a Labour MP, being a victim of a huge amount of online abuse, receiving death threats, anti-Semitic and violent comments, and she's welcoming the new guidelines because, and obviously this is, if you get out and make a statement and you stand for a particular position, but don't have people just arguing back, they actually start to threaten and abuse you, then it has to stop. So what is a hate crime? Now, there's a bit challenge here in terms of getting something up, so I'm going to have to read this out because I couldn't seem to get what I wanted to show on screen. But this is the government CPS site, and this is what they say. A hate incident, and we're going to have to talk about incident versus crime in a minute. A hate incident is any incident where the victim or anyone else, it's not just the people who are victimized, it's people who see it or connected with it or are aware of it, anyone else thinks is based on someone's prejudice towards them because of their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or because they're transgender. So this is the really important thing. Anything that actually is seen as an attack, a prejudiced attack on someone, verbally, physically, or whatever, because of their race, their religion, their sexual orientation, disability, or because they're transgender. If you are the victim of that because you are, because of your race, religion, or if you see it, or you think you saw it, or you're aware of it. So let's have a look at back, for example, to what happened to me, and I'll go. Let's come back to me now on this one. So what happened to me? There was a program on BBC Two on Wednesday last week about gender equality, and really looking at the issue of embedding inequality into children by the time they're age 7. And it's a 2-part documentary, and I'm going to come back to that again on Thursday. So last Thursday, I decided to talk about that on my online show. Somewhere in the midst of all that, somebody decided to have a go at me. They didn't like me. I'm not quite sure why they didn't like me. Now, please, I wasn't sure whether to show this or not, but I'm going to warn you in advance. I'm going to show you what happened. This is still in the comments on my Facebook, on the video from last Thursday. These are the comments. I'm not necessarily going to read them out because you'll be able to see them as I switch them, and you'll see if I'm in the middle of doing a presentation and suddenly comments I'm watching comments all the time flashing up. In fact, I'm really great to see. I'm just going to mention here, hello Claire. So good to see you there. I'm going to be talking to Claire a bit later on because we're on another live show later on together. So thanks, Claire. And yeah, it is about time this has been dealt with. So here is what this particular person said, and you can see it's pretty abusive. The thing is this about me because I'm transgender? Difficult for me to say. But there are various different suggestions about what I might like to do to various parts of his body, and a lot of use of the F word. So we'll go back to it on. But that's what happened, a stream over 2 minutes of abuse coming at me, and it caught me unawares. I'm thinking, oh, wow. Now, as a consequence, I spoke to other women who live broadcast, and they said, yeah, it happens quite a bit. So what have I done this morning? Because of what has happened with the CPS, I have decided to tackle this by going online. Now, what I've done is to go onto the CPS site that we just looked at now, and if you if you look at the CPS site, you'll find on there that you can actually go in and you can click on here and report it. Now, this is a site called True Vision. It's a site that's been set up to try to bring together all of the various different reports around the country. Now, what people don't understand is it's more often than not, they're not going to be able to prosecute. I think this guy who did this abuse on my line, what I noticed was about 15 minutes later, I screen grabbed it just in case I needed it. And suddenly I noticed his name changed and there was a different picture there. So I have no idea whether it may be some completely different. It looked as if it might be somebody from Hull, but then again, these people who do this kind of thing know that they don't want to get caught, so they use fake IDs, all sorts of fake programs. It's very hard to track them down and get them. I understand that. But the problem is that if the police don't know how much of this is going on, then they don't have the ammunition, if you like, to argue for budgets and funding to support it. So the more that everybody reports every single hate incident that you see, then the better it's going to be. And I'm just seeing here Claire saying, yeah, sadly, I've heard other women online get this quite often. And I think women are particularly picked. No, that's about gender. That's about your sex and gender. Now, the rules around gender-based harassment are a little bit different. But it's still hate incident. It's still harassment. And if it happens, we can take action. So report it. If people are making these incidents, report the incident as soon as you can. You can either phone the police and report it on the non-emergency number, or when you go to this True Vision page here, which I've been showing you, I'll give you the address for that as well. But just go to True Vision. And when you go there, oh yes, here we are. I've got it. It's reportit.org.uk, report-it.org.uk. So this morning I went on and I thought, right, no point me going on here and saying this is what you should do and report it if I haven't done. And I just sort of brushed it off and thought, oh, it's just some silly troll, we'll get rid of it. Well, no. Let's actually get a campaign. Let's report all of these incidents. If people are abusing people online, the CPS has come out and said now they're going to improve the prosecution. And what generally happens, a hate incident, if it turns into a crime, and this is the important thing, reporting a hate incident, first of all, gets the message there. If it then turns into a crime, if somebody stalks, if somebody abuses, if somebody tries to attack, if you start getting death threats following that, then you're starting to build up a pattern that people can see. This isn't just happened. This is actually being premeditated, and this is actually a serious incident. And once it moves into becoming a crime and they can prosecute, if it's treated as a hate crime, then the penalties are twice as severe. A friend of ours in Kent got caught out. She was in a Morrison's supermarket and somebody absolutely ripped in the checkout, screaming and shouting abuse. So she picked up a camera and started filming it, and she reported it. And a couple of months later, he started a 1-year prison sentence for a hate crime, harassment and abuse, and because it was treated as because of her being transgender, the sentence he received was doubled, and that's what happens. It's double the penalty, and not only that, the police address these issues much more aggressively to try and bring these perpetrators to justice. So we've all got to join in, get this hate crime stuff stopped. It shocked me a little bit. It shocked me more to find out how many people are getting this kind of abuse. And here we are in a new world, getting into online broadcasting, loving and enjoying it. And suddenly we've got these idiots around here who are trying to make that a more difficult process. And my God, it's hard enough just getting over the nerves of sitting here and actually talking to camera and trying to get myself sorted out with that. Let's all join together. Hate crime has to be stopped. The CPS in the UK is now behind it. So if you're in the UK, every time you get a hate incident that takes place, if something happens because of your race, your gender, your sexuality, and bear in mind, it says sexual orientation, sexual orientation can be just because you're female, so and straight. It isn't just because someone's gay. So it's just report every incident. Then at least the police get to know a pattern of what's happening. They can see what's going on, and the more they see, the more likely they are then to get the funding, and the more likely the police generally are to put attention on saying, right, this has now got to be stamped at. It's already happening. We already know now that there is government attention on this issue. MPs and senior people are getting attacked and are having problems with, say, hate crime. It's not just ordinary people; it's everyone. And I know that this can young kids who get this kind of hate online can get so demoralized by it that it leads to, at least to self-harming, it leads to attempted suicide, it leads to all manner of challenges and problems, and also increases the difficulties and challenges of mental health problems. So, a little bit of a tough topic today. I hope you've found that interesting, useful. Please join me whenever you see any hate crime taking place, and it doesn't have to be against you. If you see it online, one maybe the presenter doesn't even see it, you can still report it. And you can do it anonymously. You don't even have to tell people who it is that's reported it. You can just go online to reportit.org.uk and tell somebody what happened, when it happened, and let's make sure that the police see how much hate is taking place, and maybe we'll start to get some real action to stop these trolls from making what is a hard job even harder. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see you all. I shall be back tomorrow. Not sure exactly what time, probably at back to the 4 o'clock slot, but for the time being, great to see you all. See you tomorrow.